The Gerudo, the people of the desert. Though shrouded in mystery, one thing has been cemented as truth. The sole man, born to the tribe of women every 100 years, shall become king. That man is Ganondorf, the eternal villain and despot of the Legend of Zelda. But the origin of these sand dwellers have been mystery and the subject of debate for many years. Let HMK join in on the fun. Here are my theories on the origin of the Gerudo. As a start, the Gerudo are a race of humans, primarily comprised of women that have an Arabic and an Amazon theme to them. They have red hair, yellow eyes, brown, tan, or greenish olivish skin, and they also have a prominent nose, being more akin like a bird's nose or beak-like nose or... yeah. And every 100 years, as I stated before, a male is born, and when that male is born, his birthright is to become king, leader, guardian of the Gerudos, whatever it may be. And so far, only one king has been identified as Ganondorf, time and time again. The Gerudo live in the desert region, which usually is located in the northwest of Hyrule, aside from Majora's Mask, where they lived on the coast of Termina, the beach area, and they are very protective of their home. The Gerudo are a band of thieves, usually lacking that of an actual government, even though they do name their male as king. They are a warrior race, shown to use weapons such as glaives, shimtars, bows, arrows, staffs, swords, yada yada yada. And they have been shown to use magic, just like Twinrova and Ganondorf himself. Now that we got a feel of what this race is, how about we go a little back to see where they actually came from. A lot of people would say that Ocarina of Time is the farthest that the Gerudo have really dated back, and that's where we would find their origins, right? Well, in my case, wrong. Their origins to me date back as far as Skyward Sword, and the reason because that is not just because of that stupid little Gerudo dragonfly, but that does have something to influence it. Now, bear with me for a second. Take a look at this fine fellow. This is Gondo, the scrap shop owner, who helps fix your weapons and whatnot in Skyward Sword. Now, the reason why I'm linking this guy to the Gerudo is not just because of your tan skin. I'm not that racist. Well, I'm not racist at all, but bear with me for a second. Check out that helmet he uses, alright? That helmet kind of looks like his eyes are kind of beady, even though those are not his eyes, those are the goggles. Now take this helmet and put it right next to the Gerudo dragonfly. Of course, the Gerudo dragonfly, being a dragonfly, has two big eyes. Now you see some similarities. What my take is that when Skyward Sword ends and all the Hylians from Skyloft go down to the earth, I'm guessing Gondo and his family, or a select few people from Skyloft, checked out the Lanaro Desert. They saw the Gerudo dragonfly and decided to establish their own government or their own tribe or whatnot. Now, you take a look at the mask, you take a look at the dragonfly, now take a look at the Gerudo symbol, which we all know was retroactively changed due to similarities with the Muslim moon star thing. Yeah, so we take a look at this symbol. Now we take a look at the mask and we take a look at the dragonfly. You see some similarities? Those two round eyes, or those two round balls at the end of the symbol, kind of look like eyes, like the Gerudo dragonfly. So what my guess is that Gondo, he took his mask, he saw similarities with the dragonfly, and I guess he created his own tribe from that, and just lived in the desert. Now, where he went on from this, in my theory, we don't really know. I mean, it's really endless possibilities from there, and I don't want to go too far into that because that's just over speculation, but I'm using these to, pinpoint some sort of connection. What's also an interesting concept is that Groose from Skyward Sword may be the start of the Gerudos, because if you take a look at his features, although he's not as tan yet, he does have red hair and yellow eyes. So think about that for a second. Now, if you're gonna ask me, how does the Gerudo just produce females all the time? Well, that's really a mystery in all its own. It's kind of weird that a female will only produce females up until 100 years. That seems kind of special. And if those people who are thinking about how do they make the females, how do they make their children? Well, I mean, the Sheikah Stone does say in Ocarina of Time that the Gerudos often wander to Hyrule looking for boyfriends and PG-13 or rated R. Of course, we know what that means. When a guy loves a girl, or when a guy and a girl want to reproduce, for that matter. Yeah, gonna have to talk with the birds and the bees there, kids. Yeah, I'm not gonna really get to that. Yeah, they fuck. Okay, yeah, we kind of get it. I like to throw in that a lesser known theory is that the Gerudo may be a cousin tribe of the Sheikah tribe. At one point, some members of the Sheikah tribe went off to create their own tribe, the Gerudo. The reason because this is that the Sheikah, even though not so much like the Gerudo, but they are a bit tanned, and so far we've only seen female Sheikahs in games such as Impa from Skyward Sword, Impa from Ocarina of Time, and Impaz from Twilight Princess. But there's nothing else to support this theory, so I'm just gonna leave it lying there and leave it alone. Now flash forward a little bit. Ocarina of Time, Ganondorf becomes the King Gerudo and tries to take control of the world by gaining the Triforce in the Sacred Realm. But we all know once she touches the Triforce, it splits into 3 parts and go into Link and Zelda. 7 years pass of darkness and Link is back to battle Ganondorf, who's been taking control of Hyrule. But where does the Gerudo stand at this point? In the Ocarina of Time manga, which is not canon by the way, it shows that the Gerudo continued to serve Ganondorf and do his bidding in the 7 years of darkness. But in the Ocarina of Time game, it shows that the Gerudo are doing their own thing, still at the Gerudo Desert, the Gerudo Fortress, and still seem to be thinking highly of Ganondorf, even though Naboo does not approve of his tactics. Wag your finger, sir. Anyways, so in the final battle of the game, which results in the timeline split, this actually may attribute to where the Gerudo stand in those timelines. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit, because even though we covered the origin of the Gerudo, I like to explore their possible futures and outcomes. Now first, we're going to take the adult timeline. In this timeline, we all know Link is successful in defeating Ganondorf, and all the races celebrate, as we show in the Ocarina of Time ending, including the Gerudo. Now, after Link goes away back into the past, Ganondorf comes back and wreaks havoc, and there's no hero to return the call of duty, right? So, obviously we know that the gods decide to flood Hyrule. Now, at this point, it gets really tricky. Now, the remaining Hylians are to go up to the mountaintops and stay there for safety while Hyrule's drowned, and that's how we get Hylians in the Wind Waker. But we don't see any Gerudos there. We don't see any, that dark of skin. So one theory is that since they live in the desert, there aren't many mountains there. There are a lot of canyons and, deserts, but there weren't any mountains. So a theory is that they all drowned. They all got killed off by the gods. Not as an act of spite, but they, just weren't able to, survive the flood. Another theory is that at this point, that the Gerudos and the Hylians, their races mixed so much that both of the races got diluted and they all just became Hylian, because we do see some characters that are kind of tan of skin in Wind Waker, such as one of the pirates from Tetra's crew, and, Tetra is pretty tan herself, which is kind of weird. Also, the Eskimo character in Wind Waker, the little shopkeeper that sells you the sail, he's kind of tan too, But I'm just saying. So at this point, the Gerudos have been either killed off or their bloodline just got diluted so much. So that's the adult timeline. Now let's go into the child timeline, where things get really interesting. Here, Link obviously goes back into the past to warn Zelda and the King of Hyrule of Ganondorf's coming treason. With Ganondorf put on trial and found guilty, where does that leave the Gerudo? Many believe that the Hylians, and hell, all the other races for that matter, thought the Gerudos were not able to be trusted anymore, thanks to the king himself of the Gerudo plan to take over Hyrule. Nah, that shit doesn't fly. So a popular theory is that they were driven out of the Gerudo Valley even. They were driven out of Hyrule completely. A lot of people say that they were killed off, but this next one is going to debunk that automatically. So a lot of people think they were, driven out. They were not to be trusted anymore, which is fucked up. And wouldn't you think, hey, wait a minute, Naboo turned out to be a sage. In the future, a sage of spirit. Wouldn't Link come to the defense? Well, no, because remember, as stated in Hyrule Historia, Zelda gave Link the Ocarina of Time and told him to flee. make sure that Ganondorf doesn't get it in this timeline, which results Link going to Majora's Mask. And after Majora's Mask, we have no idea where Link is after that. So Link couldn't come to the defense. So sad to say, the Gerudo was driven out. That was the popular theory. Also, I like to point out that Telma from Twilight Princess, the owner of Telma's Bar, is said to be a Gerudo-Hylian hybrid. You know, Gerudos have rounded ears or slightly pointy ears, as shown as the Ganondorf redesign in Twilight Princess, and she seems to have pointy ears like Hylian, tan skin like a Gerudo, but green eyes. Green eyes? Really? Well, the thing is, because Hylians have blue eyes typically, and the Gerudos have yellow eyes typically. When you mix those two together, what do you get? Green! So it's highly evident that she might be a Gerudo-Hylian hybrid, and you know, the fact that she has red hair also supports that. But you know, that really doesn't have to do with anything, just want to throw it out there. Yeah. So continuing this theory of the Gerudo being driven out and their absence explained in Twilight Princess, another theory supports that since Ganondorf did rise to power once again and launched another attack on Hyrule through the Twili and through Zant, it is often thought that the Hylians saw that since the Gerudo didn't really attack him that time, that Ganondorf was acting out of his own rage and hate, and you know, was said it was okay that, you know, the Gerudos to come back. So at the point of Four Swords Adventures, it's stated in Hyrule Historia that the relations between the Gerudo and the Hylians were friendly once again, and in this game they're not really thieves, they're just sand dwellers. In Four Swords Adventures, the Gerudos once again had a new king named Ganondorf, which broke the Gerudo law at that time not to get the Trident of Power, because once you get the Trident of Power you become god demon like thingy. So he became Ganon once again and brought rage and destruction to Hyrule once again, which begs the question, why the fuck would you name the new king the name of the old king, which committed horrific acts to Hyrule in eras beforehand? So that's kind of weird, and you know, you should have got that kid on lock or some shit like that. Now let's get to the decline timeline. Ganondorf is victorious, gains all the pieces of the Triforce, and becomes the Demon King, Ganon. But then is sealed off into the Sacred Realm, which becomes the Dark Realm. Now, peace once again flourishes in Hyrule for a time. But in Link to the Past, there is no Gerudos to be found, even when you go to the desert. Why is that? A popular theory is that the king of Hyrule and all the era races for that matter was like, damn, enough is enough, no more bullshit, and they killed off the Gerudos. And for some reason, Twin Rova survived. Not only their battle with Link in Ocarina of Time, but this so-called purging of the Gerudo race. But you know, it's still a theory. But Twin Rova survives and is present in other games, which I'll talk about in a bit. So we get to the point where in Link to the Past, Ganon is ready to come back through Aghanim. But when you go to the desert area, there's no Gerudos to be found, but there are Guildmen. Guildmen are obviously the sand creatures that attack you and whatnot, but the reason why there are Guildmen is because a lot of people believe that the blood of the Gerudos or the hatred of the Gerudos, think because they got purged by the Hylians, seep into the sand and become malevolent enemies, demons, monsters. But you know, this once again is a theory, but it is supported a little bit because in Hyrule Historia it showed in Ocarina of Time the original text for the Gerudo originally was going to translate to Geldo, like Guildman or Guildworm, just like in the, you know, the sands, the deserts or whatnot. So this may be supported a little bit, but not so much. Now flash forward a little bit. Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons. The Gerudo as a tribe is still nowhere to be found, but we still have Twin Rova aligning themselves with their lackeys Aviron and Onyx, which both represent the Gerudo symbol on their attire, causing trouble in Labrina and Holderum. Now, Veron and Onyx are not considered to be Gerudo because they don't have any traits of the Gerudo, and the Gerudo are still nowhere to be found, so we're gonna write that off really quick. And at the end, Twin Rova does sacrifice herself, or Koem and Kotake, they both sacrifice both of them to resurrect Ganon in the end, but even though he's just a beast, berserker, blah 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 blah, and Link kills him, bing bam boom, done. So is that the end of the Gerudo? Maybe, but not so much. Go off into the future a little bit, we are here at the Legend of Zelda. Legend of Zelda 1, guys. Now it says here in Hyrule Historia that Ganondorf has been defeated time and time again, but this time he's resurrected as the Demon King Ganon. With no traces of Ganondorf whatsoever, we are safe to say that this guy is not of Gerudo heritage, even though he's just reborn as Ganon. Now with Ganon defeated in the Legend of Zelda and his resurrection prevented in Zelda 2, is this the end of the origin or the lifespan of the Gerudo? Well, this theory is still full of holes and is, big mystery. So nothing's set in stone until we get another game or some other thing. I don't know, guys. It's very mysterious. And once again, this is all a theory. There's none set in stone, and this is HMK's opinion. Now, a lot of people may be like, hey, why don't you bring up Demise? Well, because Demise, he becomes the reincarnation force behind Ganondorf, but not behind the Gerudo as a tribe. Even though he has dark skin and red, burning hair, he is solely responsible for the reincarnation of Ganondorf. Nothing more, nothing less. And a lot of people are saying, hey, why don't you bring up the pirates from Majora's Mask? Okay, even though they are still referred to as Gerudos, they are in an alternate world, an alternate universe, you might say. Even though I still believe that Termina may be another country aside from Hyrule, it's still an alternate dimension type thing. And their cultures and customs may be radically different as opposed to the Gerudo, who say they don't want to do much violent things said by Nabooru in Ocarina of Time, and in Majora's Mask, the pirates basically killed Azora. Come on now. So that's why I didn't bring them up. So, in the end, the origin and the timeline of the Gerudos is very mysterious and the subject of much speculation. But I just want to shed some light on what I think about the Gerudos. So, if you like this video or any other video that HMK puts out, don't forget to subscribe to HMK9Cap'n, HMK's channel. With more Zelda videos on the way, until next time, I'll check you guys later.